everybody. My name is Jocelyn Hurtado. I am the archivist at the Black Archives History and Research Foundation. And today we are launching new series online. My segment is called Is It True? Tales from the Magic City. And I'm going to be talking about tales, stories I've heard, and people I've heard over the years regarding Miami. And I'm going to be discussing some of the tales that have been circulating to see if they're true, if they're based on facts, and tell you a little bit more about, general Black history in Miami. So I'm excited. And this is a part of a new series where we're going to keep on doing it every day. We're going to have different shows. And this is just so you can be entertained and you can be be learning new things and, learn something while we're all in this situation together and we're safer at home. And I'm really excited. So let's get started. So today's first story is going to be, is it true? The Nat King Cole, Billie Holiday, Nina Simone perform at the Lyra Theater. And the reason I chose this topic, because over the years I've been an archivist at the Historic Lyra Theater at the Black Archives for 4 years. I've always heard, people saying that Nina Simone, B.B. King, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong perform at the Lyra Theater, but that's actually not necessarily true. So a lot of people get mixed up who actually performed. It's something that, is common because people think Historic Lyra Theater, which is the oldest theater, standing theater, operating theater in South Florida, these big names that, used to perform in Colortown, they automatically connected with the Lyric Theater. But today we're going to just be discussing a little bit about the history. And first and foremost, I want to give you a little bit of background. So for those of you who are not familiar with Historic Lyric Theater, it's located in Overtown, formerly known as Colortown. And Colortown began in 1896, and after the incorporation of Miami, it was the color section, designated section of Miami. So this is where Miami's color community lived. And the Historic Lyric Theater is located in 2nd Avenue, formerly known as Avenue G. And a lot of people don't even know that these streets were actually originally named as letters. And the Lyric Theater was built in 1913 by a man named Jeter Walker. And he was originally from Georgia. And in 1913, you have to think about it, it was a little bit over 10 years after the city of Miami was incorporated. Jeter Walker built this theater that was 2 years later lauded as one of the most beautiful, opulent color theater in all the Southland. He styled it after, the great theaters in Europe. And this theater was served as a focal point for the community. And a lot of people, think that the theater was used for big performances, but it was actually a really big part of the community to hold rallies, talk shows, talk segments, for parades and events. And Jeter Walker really, made it so it could be a focal point of the community. For example, soon after when the Lyra Theater was open, a year afterwards in 1914, the 50-year anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation was actually celebrated at the Lyric Theater. And people from all over the community saw that as a community space. And there was also a lot of different, it was used basically as a focal point, as a rally. For example, there was these segments called the 4-Minute Men during World War I, where men of the community, the color community, used to go there and have talks. For example, R.E.S. Toomey, D.A. Dorsey, Kelsey Farr, they all spoke there at the Lyra Theater, trying to stimulate the community to support the men who were fighting off in World War I. A lot of people tend to forget that African Americans did fight in World War I. Over 350,000 African Americans fought overseas, and they were always looking for ways to make sure there was funding, bail bonds, everything, so they can also send food and supplies. And so the Lyra Theater really did play a central part in Colortown. And another interesting story I want to tell you about is, so if I'm looking to my left, your right, is because I'm checking my sources. So I just want to let everybody know all of this research is done by looking at old newspapers, online. You know, I'm using all my available resources available to me to verify this information. And also, when this is over, if you ever want to learn more information, this information is going to be available at the Black Archives. So if you want to see the information, please go to the Black Archives once we really open. Okay. And in the meantime, I just want to give you some interesting facts about Jeter Walker, who was the owner of the Lyra Theater. He actually owned a saloon prior to the opening of the Lyra Theater, and he owned a saloon, he owned a pool hall, and he actually got in trouble a little bit with the law just because of the licensing for the liquor. And back then, in the early years of Miami's incorporation, there was a really big wave to make it a dry city. You know, actually, this is an interesting fact that Louis Burton, the assistant archivist, actually uncovered while doing research a couple months ago, that Julia Tuttle, she had a stipulation if she sold you land in Miami that the owner of the land would have to agree not to sell liquor in that area. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Okay, so right now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the other events that happened at the Lyra Theater. For example, it was not uncommon for a lot of boxing fights to happen. And for example, right now I'm going to read you an article from 1924. It's called Boxing Program Scheduled Tonight. Boxing was a huge part of entertainment. Like I said, Second Avenue was known as Little Broadway's. It was full of like lounges, hotels. It was full of clubs, entertainment areas, and one of the big things to see entertainment wise was boxing. And boxing was something that was held regularly at the historic Lyra Theater. For example, in 1924, Cuban Charlie is again at this time with a color fight card that has 3 gold belts listed on it as well as a battle royale. The program will be put on tonight at the Lyra Theater. The headline attraction will be 10-round go between Reno Ghosts. These are names of actual boxers. Reno Ghosts of Jacksonville, who take on the Panama Kid of Miami. A 6-round battle will bring Shady Ward. I'm telling you, I can't make up these names. Yes, Shady Ward against Young Dixon, while the opener will be a 4-round affair between Young Six Cylinders and Young Moxie. Yeah, these names are something else. And boxing was something that typically happened in the Lyra Theater. And another thing during my research that I found interesting is that they also have held a lot of concert and benefit events. And an interesting thing that I noticed is that they always gave preference. They said white patrons could reserve seats, but not colored patrons. So I found that a little bit interesting, a little bit odd. But it's important to know, even though the Lyra Theater was located in Colortown, it welcomed people from all over different communities, not just only the colored people of Colortown. Okay, and I also wanted to talk to you about something really interesting that I found. So, after the Great Depression in 1931, it was not uncommon for places like different theaters to hold benefit concerts, and the Lyra Theater actually held benefit concerts to help the unemployed. And they encourage patrons to attend and see a screening of a movie. So adults will pay 25 cents to get in, while children would pay 10 cents. And then also, if you couldn't have the physical money, you can also donate clothes or food items in order to give to the unemployed. So it really served as a place to basically help the community. Okay, and so I have a question. So it says, Shady Ward, do you know if there's any connection with the Ward family of the Ward rooming house? So I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to look into it, and I'm actually going to do a follow-up in the comments, and I'm going to answer the question. I just want to say hi to everybody, if the people who are watching. Well, according to the article, it says shady word. Sometimes it could be a typo. That's something that's not uncommon during newspapers. I've seen people mispronounce and mistype names all the time, so I'll look into that to see if that's the same person. Okay, and let's see. Also, so it looks like going back to boxing, so it looks like Cuban Charlie was actually the matchmaker, and he was the one who selected which boxers were going to fight at the Lyric Theater. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. And I also want to talk to you about So I also want to talk to you about some other events that happened at the Lyric Theater. For example, at the Black Archives, we actually have collections that include oral histories and remarks in newspapers or statements that people have said that, it was not uncommon for Shakespeare plays to be played at the Lyric Theater. Tickets were just $1. And at the Black Archives, we actually have a collection called Calvin Marks, and he was a projectionist at the Lyric Theater. And we actually have his collection. There's a picture of him standing next to a projector, and he was playing the film reel. So if anybody's interested in that collection is MS00045, and it's available to view once this is all over. And getting into that, I actually want to talk to you about some of the other events that happened at the theater. One of them included a fire. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up that article and see. So in this article, give me a second. So in this article, it basically talks that a fire broke out during a film screening of the Lyric Theater, but the patrons who were actually watching the movie were able to put out the fire before the fire department actually showed up. So that's pretty interesting. It was not even the first time a fire had occurred at the Lyric Theater, but luckily the fire really didn't cause that much damage, and they were always able to repair it. And so basically, I wanted to just inform you. So these are the type of events that happen at the Lyric Theaters. They had community rallies, they had parades. For example, on 4th of July, they used that as the end point of a parade. So they went around Colortown, and they ended up the parade at the Lyric Theater, and it was followed by a speech by Kelsey Farr, R.E.S. Toomey, and other speakers. So at the Lyric Theater, there were singers. For example, there were acts, but they were not like the big acts like Nina Simone, B.B. King, Louis Armstrong, and Ella Fitzgerald. What we did have was, let me pull this up. Okay. So in 1932, a Harlem musical show came to the Lyric Theater. It was called Follies of 1932. So it says, and this is all based on newspapers, and this is how it was advertised. White people who never seen genuine Harlem music show may enjoy the distant innovation at the Lyric Theater. And an interesting thing that I noticed over a couple months of researching the Lyric Theater address is now 819 Northwest 2nd Avenue, but for years the address was 817 Northwest 2nd Avenue. And another interesting tidbit is that there was actually an ice cream parlor located at the Lyric Theater at one point. So going back to the 1932 show, it was shown at the Lyric Theater. It says, a special section of the colored theater has been reserved for the exclusive use of white patrons. The Whiteman sister producer of this show, called The Follies of 1932, are widely known as stars of New York's Harlem and Northern vaudeville circuits, and have assembled Negro entertainers whose entertainment qualities rivals even shuffle along. Featuring the Follies of 1932 are pop white man juvenile tap dancer, Annie Mae Price, Southland's famous colored blues crooner, Willie Two Sweets, hilarious color comic, Princess Wee Woo. I'm telling you, these names are like one of a kind. Princess Wee Woo, world's only color midget entertainer, the Royal Nighthawks, a 10-piece ragtime band, and 20 dusky singer dancing girls. 3 performances will be given today at 3, 7:30, and 9:30. During the week, only 2 shows will be given nightly, with the exception of Thursday and Saturday, when additional shows will be offered at 3 p.m. Okay, so we had a question. Does anybody know if Langston Hughes ever was at the Lyric Theater? Yes. We knew that Langston Hughes and also Marian Anderson were at the Lyric Theater. Langston Hughes recited a poem, and Marian Anderson was there. And then also, this is a little bit more recently, was Whitney Houston actually filmed her music film video, Tried It On My Own, at the Lyric Theater after it was renovated. And if you go on YouTube, you can actually see that video, and you can see the Lyric Theater. And at the end of the credits, she thanks the Lyric Theater, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting as well. So now that you know a little bit who performed at the Lyra Theater, I'm also going to let you know that the theater was operational until 1959. That's when it was changed and converted into a church. And let me tell you the name of that church. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. All right. Okay. So, in 1959, it became the Church of the General Assembly of the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ of the Apostle of Faith. That is a mouthful. And the congregation was there for a couple of years. And afterwards, after the congregation was there, the church, the church name was the United House of Prayer. Guess that news article was wrong, but yes, it was called the United House of Church. And after the congregation left for a couple of years, the Lyric Theater became destitute and it closed down. And it was after years of destitution and dilapidation, the theater was designated as to be torn down. But because it still had the remnants of the church name, because of that, it actually saved it from demolition. And the Black Archives acquired the Lyric Theater, and in 1988, the Lyric Theater was placed in the historic designation site. And so that's a little bit about the history of the of the theater. And now moving on to modern day, a lot of people, if you have never been to the Lyric Theater, I really recommend you to go. It's really beautiful. The capacity of the Lyric Theater is 398 seats. There are 2 floors, and then the second floor is a balcony. And it's pretty interesting because if you've ever been in the second floor, the balcony is kind of low, but it's a beautiful view. And the Black Archives placed it on the National Registry list. And then in the year 2000, the Lyric Theater was rehabilitated and restored. And in 2004, phase 2 of the construction was done. And in phase 3, the Lyric Theater, annex was made, where the lobby is, the additional lobby with the glass windows are. And after that, the Lyric Theater has been open, and that's where we host our show, Lyric Live, which is styled after the Apollo. That's where we tell contestants to get up there and sing for the shot for $500. So if you know anybody who had any talents or anything, once it reopens, I encourage you to go there and see the show because it's really interesting and really fun. And also, instead of having the Sandman boo off the contestants, we actually have the Junkanoo Band dance people off. So that's a little bit of the history of the Lyric Theater. So over the years, I've always heard people credit different singers coming to the Lyric Theater and singing there, but that's not actually true. The singers actually went to different areas of Colortown. For example, the Sir John Hotel, that's where Hank Ballard, Fay Ray, and the Duke Earl played. Also in the Mary Elizabeth, that's where Lena Horne and all other celebrities were as well. And so the places where the celebrities went were the Sir John Hotel, the Mary Elizabeth, let me see, the Harlem Club. So it was not at the Lyra Theater, but it was at other places. And if you want to know who else like perform at these other places, at the Black Archives, we have a great collection. It's called the Clyde Killing, the Sammy Rabin Billboard collections, and we literally have over 100 of them. And they are actually the lobby cards that were used on display to show and to advertise the performance. The prices of the tickets were usually somewhere between 25 cents to, I've seen $2.25. Isn't that great? $2.25 to watch a show. And we have the billboards include the names of, Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle, Bo Diddley, B.B. King, Ben E. King, we also Little Esther. So those are those individuals did not play at the Lyra Theater. They played at the other clubs and lounges around Colortown. So right now I'm gonna ask anybody if anybody has any questions. Any questions, any interesting information or great memories that you had with Lyra Theater? Let me see. I'm going to look at other questions that I might have missed. All right. So, that is it for me. But what I want from you guys, if you ever heard of any interesting stories from your aunts, your grandma, your friends, wondering if it's true, because I've heard, for example, is it true that the area of Miami Gardens in that area were pineapple fields? Is it true that you needed an identification card to cross over to Miami Beach during Jim Crow eras? I want to know what kind of interesting stories you want me to discuss and talk about, and I'll be more than glad to do the research. And also, okay, so I do have a question. It says, why do you think so many people give false narratives about the Lyra Theater? Well, I think it's because people don't take the time to do research and verify that information. A lot of the information, it's details or stories they get from other people, and they don't really know where that information came from. And so I always encourage people, if you want to know information, do your due diligence and do research. The Black Archive has the largest Black material repository in South Florida. And then also, so there's a follow-up regarding the performance. Okay, so I also think that, since the Lyra Theater is the oldest standing legitimate theater, older than the Olympian Theater in downtown, which was the white theater, a lot of people, since it's still one of the last remaining landmarks in Colortown and Overtown, I think a lot of people want to connect, these artists and performers playing there, because it's a beautiful site, it's a beautiful theater, and they just want to kind of not embellish that history, but attribute that history to that area, to that place. Since so many of these other places, like the Mary Elizabeth, the Sir John Hotel, do no longer exist, people still want to connect these stories to these places. And that's why it's so important, to preserve these historic places, because, a lot of people, once these places are gone, these stories tend to be forgotten. But it's very important to, know what is real, what is fact, but also, remember other details of other places. So there's a comment that says, not a question, but very interesting info. Thank you for doing this. Oh, you're welcome. I'm really glad to be doing this. I love doing research. It's pretty interesting. It is really time consuming, but I get to read newspaper and I get to learn something new every single day. And it's always something that has interested me. Like, there's a lot of things, even though I've been working at the Lyra Theater for so many years, I didn't know, there was like an annual folk festival held at the Lyra Theater every single year. And also, celebrations like Christmas was a big part, and that was celebrated at Lyra Theater to just bring the community together. And it's really something I really appreciate, and it's something that I really like, that even more than 100 years later, is here you still see the historic Lyra Theater playing a focal point in the community, having events to bring all these different people from all different communities across South Florida together and enjoy, music, or, be there for a cause, or, just as a place where entertainment is enjoyed and, where it's historic and there's so many things that are offered. So, yeah. And so that's basically it for me, guys. But before I go, I actually want to tell you guys about our upcoming schedule. So today's segment is called Tales from Is It True? Tales from Black Miami, Tales from the Magic City. And I'm going to be doing this every Monday at 1 p.m. And then also tomorrow we have Today in Black History with Alicia Melton at 11 a.m. Wednesday we had Jeopardy Noir with the executive director Timothy Barber. Please make sure to join. All of these segments are great. And if you have any kids, please tell them to come and watch, because you're going to learn something new. And if you want to have an educational portion, you can just turn on the phone and they can learn something new. On Thursday, we're going to have Legacy Profiles and Greatness with Louis Berthin at 1 p.m. And then on Friday, we're going to have virtual tours, virtual field trips with Timothy Barber at 12 p.m. And on Saturday, we have Story Time in Color with Camila Pritchett at 11 a.m. So if you have any questions, if you have any recommendations, if anything you want to learn about, if anything you have a question about, please leave a comment, like, shares, follow us below. And also make sure to tune into all the other segments tomorrow, starting with Today in Black History at 11 a.m. with Alicia Melton. So bye, guys. Stay safe, stay at home, do some research, learn some new Black history, tell a friend, and yeah, all right.